you've seen a lot of families go through this. And so if you were to summarize families that do this really well, here's what I see.
I would say, first, start early, and if you haven't started early, start now. We've done the surveys at the high schools that we've gone and visited, and it's such a small fraction of kids who say they're having monthly conversations about money with their parents. Once you've been doing it for a couple of months, where you've talked to them every month for 2 or 3 or 4 months, it'll get easier, and it just becomes natural. And that's really what we want to get, where the kids will just naturally come to you as the parent and ask you the hard questions. And feel free to say, wow, that's a tough situation. I don't know the answer. Let's go find out, and let's ask around. So yeah, start now and keep at it, and it'll get easier.
Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Todd Christensen, a financial educator, counselor, and author who has spent more than 2 decades helping families build stronger financial foundations. Todd is the financial education and housing counseling manager at MoneyFit by DRS, a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to financial literacy and debt reduction education. He is also an accredited financial counselor and the author of several books, including Everyday Money for Everyday People and 50 Plus on Fire. Todd is also a father of 4, and a lifelong advocate for practical money skills. He brings a wealth of experience to conversations about family finance, from teaching young kids about saving to helping adult children navigate independence. I am very excited to have this conversation with him today. Todd, welcome. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation as well.
Great. So, I don't know, maybe this is the universe telling me something just today. I have an alert for the words parents and children's health, because this is a lot of what I am interested in and what we write about and we talk about here on The Weekly Parent. And one of the stories today said, I finally talked to my boomer parents, so older generation of parents, about money. Like, I finally did it.
Yeah.
And so my first question for you, which is one that, I think my husband and I ask ourselves often, why is it so hard for parents, or even just families in general, to talk to each other about financial matters?
Great question. It really is a generational thing. And there was a time, and there still is, in many households, where you just don't talk about money. Money was considered dirty to talk about, as in, don't get your hands dirty. We don't talk about such menial things, but it is anything but non-important. It is critical. And so most people, when I say, what was the answer you got when you were sitting around the table at a dinner table, for families who still sit around the dinner table, and you asked mom or dad, how much money do you make? Standard answer, none your business. We don't talk about money. You don't ask about money. That one simple response, because that is the universal answer. 99% of parents are going to say, that's none of your business. Tells the child, do not talk to me about it ever. And they don't, and we don't. We say, okay, well, I guess I can't even talk to them, and can't go to them for advice, can't go for anything at this point.
Yeah. So I imagine you spend a lot of time talking about this too. And my follow-up for this question about, why is it so hard? What are the consequences of not talking about it?
Right. They are varied and long-term, because when we hear that we're not supposed to talk about money, then we assume, then I have to do this all on my own. I have no option but to figure it out. And every generation starts over from zero. The families that get it right know that they have to have that conversation. That's beneficial. But when that's not the case, it just becomes this cycle of, okay, let's start over. Every generation starts from zero. The attitude that you don't get a leg up on me, that is not helpful for anybody. So I'm a huge proponent of, let's talk about money. at all stages of life. It's not like the kids aren't learning. They'll learn. I mean, they see mom or dad either give cash at the register or swipe a card, and they know that whatever they did was magic. Whatever mom or dad just did, I now have a toy or a candy or something. And if they think about is just the giving or just swiping, and they don't understand what goes into all that and where that money comes from, it becomes a very unbalanced sort of view of life financially.
Yeah. I have amazing parents, so wonderful, worked in child development, youth resiliency their whole lives, wonderful educators, fabulous parents. We did not have a lot of money, and money was the thing. There just was never enough of it. And when the conversation, the checkbook would come out, my parents still balanced a checkbook. When I saw that come out, I was out of there. I did
Yeah,
not want to
I don't
be
want to be
around
around for
to
that
hear,
conversation.
yes. Um, and I'm so grateful that since my parents have, they found their footing, and I have no concerns about their financial stability. And partly that is because they know how to live within their means, which we can talk about that separately. There are sort of lots of elements that go into being financially secure, but that piece for a long time, then when I got married, talking about money with my husband was so difficult for me because it brought back all of those emotions. So we all come to our families, our relationships, even if it's friends splitting a check at dinner, right? We come to that with some background and some baggage, perhaps.
Yep. Yep.
How can we begin? How can we ease into these conversations? What are some early steps, like easy steps we can take?
Right. So as early as we want to start, it's never too early. As I mentioned, toddlers, 2-year-olds see the exchange going on, and that's an economic exchange. That's becomes personal household finance. I think one of the easiest things to do is to find some books, children's books. There are a lot of children's books that have to do with money. I've been for boy almost 20 years now. I've been going into second grade classes all around my state, teaching, doing readings from the Berenstain Bears' Trouble with Money book.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love the Berenstain Bears? And it teaches about earning, saving, spending, and giving. 4 things that you can do with money, and just making it part of a bedtime routine, and every once in a while bringing in a book like that. Or Alexander, who used to be rich yesterday, I think is an oldie but goodie, on how it's so easy to overspend on money. So that's one. And then, you know, the fact that your parents would sit down and you knew that they were working on money, that's actually a step in the right direction. Hiding in the back room, hiding in the bedroom gives that same sense that I'm not supposed to be here. Or being upfront and honest. Hey, come on over. Let's have this quick conversation. You say, hey, just so you know, we're working on the household budget. It's not always easy what we're doing, but it's important for you just to understand some of the things we do, and just introduce one little thing at a time. Every month that you're going through your finances, maybe just bring them in. Hey, did you know how credit cards are different than debit cards? Did you know that when I swipe the card, money actually comes out of a bank? Just little steps and being open. I'll share one of our favorite activities we did especially with our older kids. We started this when they were 5 years old, all the way up. I think we did it like 3 or 4 times, and by the third or fourth time, they said, "Yeah, we get it." You have to be willing to do this and being open and a little vulnerable as parents. You get your monopoly money. Life money doesn't work because that's in thousands and thousands of dollars. But
Huge. Yeah.
monopoly money, and you put out in the middle of the table how much money we earn every month, and the kids' eyes go, because the 7-year-old thinks that $100 will buy you a house. They don't know. They just know it's a lot of money. And you say, this is what we have to live on each month. This is what I earn. This is what mommy or daddy or both of us earn. And then you say, okay, let's talk about what happens. And you start taking money out. Well, first of all, I really, really don't even see this money because we pay income taxes, and we pay We pay property taxes and we pay insurance. I highly recommend you don't get into the negative, bitter, but say, yeah, we pay taxes. And because of that, we have law enforcement, we have firefighting, we have schools, we
Schools.
have we have all these things that we get. Sometimes we don't need all of them, but we get them anyway. And you slowly, and you start with priorities, and then we start. Here's how much we pay for the house. What? We have to pay for the house? Yeah, we pay for the house. It's called a mortgage. And we also pay for the lights, and here's the power bill. What? We have to pay for turn on the switch? Yep, yep. And the heating, and so don't in the middle of winter. That's why my parents said, hey, uh, you weren't born in the barn. Close the door,
That's
right?
right. I'm not air
And
conditioning the outside. Thank you very much.
yeah,
Yeah, close the
yeah,
door.
yeah, exactly. And you just keep going through it, and make sure that somewhere in there you say, here's where we're putting some money away for savings for the future. Here's your allowance, or here's some money for you that we spend on you, so that they know that there's something that they're not left out of the equation. And at the end, they look down there and there's $3.25 left, and they're like, okay, so you know what it does? It immediately, our older kids, they stopped asking for money. They knew that mom and dad had a plan, and that we didn't have endless supply of money, but that we had things set aside for necessity. And then the last thing I'll suggest is when your kids come to you and ask you for money, whether it's for a gumball machine at this grocery store, whether it's for prom and $500 or $1,000, $2,000, and if you don't have it, instead of saying we don't have it, that creates this mentality of scarcity, that, oh, mom and dad, or mom or dad, we're poor, we don't have any money, I can't ask for it, and that really leads to some long-term issues. But instead saying that, I would love to, that is just not our priority at the moment. It seems trivial, but it really does make a difference, because it triggers in their mind, wait, okay, so there's other things that are more important to them than what I'm asking, and I wonder what those are. And then they'll start asking other questions down the road. So those are some of the main ways to start.
Such great advice. Thank you. My children are 16, 14, and 12, and we can talk about some of the things we've been doing, related to financial literacy. Happy to share all of that. Even at that age, this monopoly, I love
Yes.
that idea, and we are going to go home and
Yeah.
do it.
You might just add the preface, if you feel you need to. All right, kids, we're sharing something really important to the family. This is not something that you go out and tell your friends or other neighbors, or even the rest of our family about. This is for us. This is important for us as a family unit.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I did get the question today with my 16-year-old about my brother and sister-in-law and their situation, and like, well, can't they just afford that? They seem like they can. And I was like, okay, this is a different conversation. Let's go stage by stage a little bit. Let's go down to like single digits, 5
Okay.
years old. What kinds of lessons make sense at that age?
So there's a lot of observation going on at that point. A few things I would say: recognize that no parent is perfect, obviously. Recognize that some of the things we do without thinking are being observed and are having an impact. So, for example, focusing on lifestyle of the rich and famous. What kind of shows are we watching? What kind of magazines might we pick up in the store? What are the things that we're talking about? Because that tells the children it's important. That's the most important thing, is that you be rich and famous. Are we playing the lottery? Are we buying lottery tickets? Are we talking about, oh, no, that's only going to happen if we ever win the lottery? And all of a sudden we're teaching our children that life is all about chance, that there's really not a whole lot you can do for yourself. We're just going to be lucky. Wherever we end up, we're destined there. And instead of teaching them that you have a say in where you end up. So those are kind of just things to model or to be aware of. If you're going to choose to watch those shows, I'd recommend to do it away from the children. I would then say, even if they're 7 or 8 years old, it really their complex thinking really starts to take effect right around 8 years old. So, like I said, a 7-year-old thinks you can buy a house with $100. But when you're watching a show, if you still have commercials, um, be every once in a while take some time say and just ask, what do you think that commercial is trying to get us to do? Because they have to pay money for that. Why would they pay money to show us that commercial? And then it becomes less about, oh, I want that to be popular, and more about, they're trying to get me to buy this. They're trying to tell me that I have to be happy, I have to drink this or wear that or do this. And it's a way of raising a very savvy consumer child, not cynical, but savvy. And then opening up savings accounts, any age, it's never too late, never too early. Studies show that children who know that they have even $20 in a college savings account are 50 or something like 50% more likely to go to college. I don't know how much that's cause and effect, but I would believe that there is some cause and effect going on there. Or just giving them some allowance, taking them to the bank, putting some money into the bank, saying this is for later if you need this, that, or the other. And then once the money is gone, the hardest thing for parents at every age is the power of the word no. We can't tell them yes when we've taught them that when this money's gone, it's gone. We don't have any more. We want them to understand that they have to take responsibility for their own behavior with money.
Yeah. And so having an option for that kind of long-term savings, whatever that goal may be, for them, at what point should their own goals play into what that money is being saved for? And, if you can afford to have, let's say advanced education savings plan and then some other kind of long-term
Okay.
savings
Yeah.
plan, great. And if so, at what point do kids get to be part of saying, I want to save for X?
Yeah, we have a calculator on our website that anybody can use, and it for all the way through teenagers where they don't have living expenses. They're not responsible for that sort of thing. Unfortunately, there are kids like that, and they use our other calculator. First thing that comes up on that, and so I'll just kind of go through those. One is be nice, learn to give, learn to be generous. It teaches us that there's always somebody in a worse off situation than us, and that our needs, what we think of as needs, are actually wants. That there are very few physical survival needs we have in this life. So be nice, be smart, save some money for when you need it. Whether that is for school, long-term school, or whether it is for want to buy a bike, or you want to go to a summer camp, or whatever it might be. Be smart. And these are all adjustable, but they like default to like 30% for that one, 10% for the generosity. Be ready. That's a fun one. That is like, put some money aside for when you find something that you just can't say no to. It helps prepare us for impulse, because you can't ever get rid of impulse. But if you have a be ready fund, you're ready to go. Go ahead, spend that money on it. Whether you've got it up to $20 or whether you've got it up to $200, you can take advantage, and that's not a bad idea for adults either.
Yeah.
Then there is also the just the spend. It's got to be more than just 10% of whatever money comes in, whether you're paying them for chores or giving them an allowance or money that they are earning next door or whatever. They need to have some money they can spend without mom or dad giving them a guilt complex. But we need to explain that. If you do all these things, you get to spend all the rest of this money, and I'm not going to ask you or give you a guilt trip about it. You go do whatever you want with it. You want to spend it on candy? That's fine. Just have them, know where their money's going to go, but they do need to have some spending money that they can spend at any time for any purpose without being given the guilt complex.
My 16-year-old is such a hard worker and has 2 jobs now,
Mm,
both
wow.
both
Or in
part-time
school.
and in school. Yeah.
Yep.
And so she, she works them minimally when she can, if they have a half day or after school. And mainly it ends up being Saturday. So one of her jobs is she's spent years working on a flower farm, actually. And so they have a stand at our local farmer's market. And she goes in the mornings and works at the flower stand. And because she has some arranging experience, she got a job at a florist in town. So she'll
Nice.
often go in the afternoon for that. And she's beginning to look at how much she makes. And while she really loves the work that she does, she's looking at her friend who works at our local grocery store, bagging groceries or as a shopper for online orders. And she's like, she makes $2.50 more than me. And I am only making $1 more than minimum wage. And, she's starting to do this math. She's not asking for advice, so we're not giving it to her, but I had a lot of jobs that I worked that I hated. And I
Hmm.
thought, okay, I know I don't want to work retail anymore. I did that. That's good. I'm going to look for something else. How do you talk to teenagers about working for money? Working is
Yeah.
also trading our time. And I don't want her to feel so much pressure that she has to make a certain amount, but she does have goals. It is a complex, as you likely
Yeah.
know very well,
Yeah.
complex ball of wax.
Yeah. Especially when they're not asking for advice.
Hmm.
You're right. What do you do? When I teach the classes, go into high schools and teach about personal finance and income, I will make that point that money doesn't have value. It just because it's got paper, just because it has a number 1 or a 10 or a 20 on it, doesn't mean it's valuable. It's first of all, it's the trust that we have in each other, the system. We are the system. It's the trust we have in each other that, hey, this is worth this much money. But who says it's worth that much money? How for me to get paid? It is your time. How valuable is your time it to exchange for this amount of money? And not all time is of same value either. If somebody loves doing something, they they'll exchange time all day long for money. If somebody hates doing something, if you don't like working with people and bagging groceries and carrying them out to the car and standing on your feet for 8 hours a day, you're going to hate that. So some of the things that I would think about in this situation would be, instead of giving advice, would be asking questions. Well, would you rather be standing for 4 hours at a time and carrying 40 pounds of groceries out, or does that sound more appealing to you? And does it sound $2 more an hour more appealing to you? I don't know. That much money, if they have some goals, or would you rather put in some extra time, or so asking questions, leading in that direction rather than, hey, you should do this, you should do that. Um, that's just general Socratic method, asking questions to help people learn for themselves.
Yeah, I like that advice. Um, you have talked about, I said in the introduction, you have raised a blended family. Um, Even if you're not raising a blended family, actually, as I said, we all come with our own background and our own experience. So, how do you talk to parents or help parents or individuals navigate these different habits, priorities, or values when you are now living together, living
Yeah.
in one household?
Yeah, very, very good question. Yeah, yeah. We have very, very different backgrounds. My wife and I, really the key is getting on the same page first. And that sounds more difficult than it really is. Um, you're going to stay, you're going to remain different in your views of money to a large extent. Um, but if you can at least agree, what are the most important things we want to do with our money as a couple or as a family? Is it going to be, saving every penny for retirement so that we can, you know, delay that and have all the fun later? Is it going to be, yeah, we want to take the kids to Disneyland and to all the fun places and travel on the other end? Um, you know, I can't make a judgment. Everybody gets to make that decision on their own. But as long as you're in that, you've agreed. Here's the most important thing. And you're having a conversation. You're working together. Keep you keep each other in the loop with finances. I really think it's 100. Everything that I do is my wife, and everything that she does is for me, and it puts you on the same page. We still have differences of opinion. What can help though here is give each other some, again, guilt-free money, fun money, money that you can spend, whether it's equal. I believe in being equal. Whether it's $20 or $50 or $200, each get to spend this every month. Here's the cash, and at the end of the month, if one spouse comes to the other, what did you do with your fund money? And you can literally say without guilt, saying it's none of your business. So that's really helpful when there are challenges. When the couple doesn't feel like they're on the same page, and they're one is giving more than the other. Well, each of you get the same amount, and the rest of it is our money. Takes care of our life together.
Yeah. And again, and that also doesn't mean that those conversations, like, yes, we'll come have this, let's talk about it. They might still be a little difficult to have, but we
Yes,
do them anyway.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if you come to it with the idea of like, this is us, we're together. That's why we are together, right?
Hmm.
We're not living in separate households. Most everything is us, but we each get some individuality, so we can stay individuals as well. We all want to have kind of individual expression, independence as well. And it's not going to be a one-time thing either. These are going to be ongoing conversations. Usually, in the couple, one member is doing the finances for the household. That's the way most households are. It should never be, I only do it, you never see it, you don't know about it. That can be very overwhelming. Plus, in some cases, it can be a situation where you get into financial abuse, where one spouse becomes very isolated financially and cut off from everything. So stay involved, stay in it, stay talking about it, share even the tough parts. That's the hardest part about being a couple. Talk about how are we going to pay this bill? I don't know. And don't get into he said, she said, it's your fault, my fault. Let's focus on the solution, and then we'll worry. We can address how we got there later.
And not only is it something that needs to happen regularly, just because it needs to happen regularly, but there must also be key moments when this conversation probably comes more to the forefront. You get a new job, or you get laid off. There is a raise, you bring a child in, you bring a pet in, and like all of the expenses.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point just that I imagine there are some sort of key milestones where it's really important to, again, resurface all of these big questions and make sure. Is there, so there, if there are some milestones, what are some of those key? And then, are there also questions we should be asking maybe on an annual basis?
No, that's a great point. Great questions. It really is. Anytime there is a major change to our income or our expenses, a new car, you mentioned the raise or a job, moving, yes, the new child, starting school, and then getting into the whole back to school cycle of costs, holidays and birthdays. How are we going to treat birthdays? Are we going to be spending more than half of our income on our child's birthday every year? These are not things that should wait until they happen. Have these kind of conversations ahead of time. Raises, when you get a raise, what are we going to do with it? Because if you don't decide ahead of time, human nature already tells you what you're going to do with it. You're going to spend it. Which is why we're like, yeah, we're getting a raise. And 3 months later, we're like, what happened to our raise? Because we just get into more and more subscriptions and spend it somewhere else. So, and that's why chasing the paycheck without having these kind of conversations and setting our expectations and our plans ahead of time chasing the bigger paycheck is never going to work because human nature is the more money you earn, the more money you're spent. So have those conversations regularly, look down the road, what's coming down the road, and be ready for it so that we're not reacting, we're being proactive.
So, you have been doing this for a few years, as I've mentioned.
More
How
than I
did you
care to
get in?
admit, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me how you got into this. Like, what drew
Oh,
you into this world?
you know, we tend, I don't know, I think we tend to go into professions that where we could really benefit personally from it. I was the 21-year-old kid that got a $2,000 credit limit on a credit card when I was still in college, and I maxed it out in 36 hours. And I was in credit card debt my entire 20s and have always been what I call a savings raider. That if yeah, I'll put money into savings halfway through the month, like, there's 25 things I want to do with that money, and I'll put that and I'll spend it. So I just happened to, honestly, I saw this. My wife was, I was working self-employed when my wife and I married, and her job was getting really hectic, and there was issues at work, and I said, okay, we were in between. My job was feast or famine, and we were in the middle of a famine. I said, quit your job, keep your hair, let's keep your sanity. I'll find something. I just happened into this. I got so lucky. It was just, and I said, I'll just do this for about 5 or 6 months until my next gig comes by. I loved it so much because it just spoke to me. It is like if I had had this 15 years ago at the time, I guess, if I had had this, I could be I'd be in such a different place. So, yeah, that's why I was lucky. But when I found, because of the luck, I loved it and I stuck with it.
Yeah, the universe opened a door. Um, what gives you hope right now about the next generation, about your children, about their children and their relationships with money? What do you see that really keeps you motivated and excited that there is hope in the
Yeah.
future?
I when I started 22 years ago, there was essentially one nonprofit association agency nationally that was focusing on personal finance. I can't even count how many there are now. The word is out and everybody is accepting it. It is okay to talk about money. You you don't have to listen to some of the other talking heads that just about angry about money. That'll belittle you because you made a bad decision. There are so many good resources out there. So just the mere preponderance of materials and programs is great. Teachers are including it. More and more states are requiring it. Uh, and I look at my kids, and none of us are perfect. I didn't raise perfect children, even financially perfect. But what I do know is that we can talk about it. My kids have no problems sharing the questions that they have or some of the challenges they've had, and because they know I'm not going to tell them, well, that was lame. It's going to be, man, you know what, I had a hard time like that too, or you're making better decisions than I. Let's keep going. So I just I see progress, even if on an individual level it may not feel like it, but there are so many opportunities out there that we just can take advantage of.
Can I ask you a couple of personal questions? I might put these into like an
Yeah,
extended
yeah,
version of our interview.
yeah, yeah. We can try it. Yep.
So, I don't know how relevant this question is. How do you advise people to talk to their parents about their financial situation? So I will say parents are quite open with us. It's been a little bit more difficult with my in-laws, and they are in a situation that worries my husband a little bit. And I think at some point it becomes important, if for no other reason than our, mental capacity and our faculties, no longer being intact. But at some point we as adult children need to have some sense of what's happening for our aging parents, and not
Absolutely.
only a sense of what's happening, but like access to accounts,
Hmm.
So how do we begin this conversation?
Yeah, that is a hugely important and not an easy, because some of the listeners are going to have boomer parents. I have the silent generation parents, and there's a lot of reasons why they're called the silent generation, and one of them is we don't talk about money. They were very good with their money, uh, but at some point, whether it's um, you know, you start noticing that they're starting to you see things, bills on the counter, whether they're overdue bills, or maybe they're just donate to this cause and that cause, and they just start giving money all to everything. I that might not be an issue. It might be an issue. Fraud and financial abuse for seniors is real. So probably where to start is acknowledge your position, acknowledge their position, and and express your um, your reason for even bringing it up. Hey, mom, dad, I'm coming from this as your loving child. I love you. We want you to make sure that everything is good with you guys. Here's what I'm noticing, and you are still you're an independent adult. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just a little worried. Tell me if I don't need to be worried. I saw this. Is there anything I should be? Uh, we can. Can you put me to work and do some research on, is that an actual legitimate nonprofit? Or um, could you help? Could you use help with just setting up automated payments for your bills? At some point, though, yes, we can talk. Go in and say, can we go in and talk to the bank manager so that you don't think that I'm trying to take anything over? Let's talk to your bank manager together and see what the options are. If they have programs that maybe if there's something coming in at $5,000 or $10,000 or more, that they can just check with me to make sure that it's accurate and that it's not, or call you or whatever it might be. Most banks and credit unions have senior programs for seniors to minimize fraud and abuse at that point.
Yeah, okay.
So, but I think acknowledging our position, acknowledging their desire to stay independent, and then offering very specific. Don't just say, well, "How can we help?" But hey, this is what I saw. If it were me, it might be a concern. Is it something that you would like me to jump in to back you up on?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that specific help. I think that will be a very key piece for us. That it's not just a general, oh, what can I do? Then that like now the burden is on them to figure it out, and they might feel like nothing.
Exactly.
I'm fine.
Yeah,
I don't need your
you're
help.
always okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And they may say, "Oh yeah, we missed that month, and that's fine." But they might say, "Yeah, I don't know what's happening. We've never been like this before." And that might be another thing. Say, we've never known this before, and I wasn't peeking. I just I saw it on the table. If it's not an issue, please just tell me. But just recognize that they still want to do it themselves.
My last question for you is about, it's kind of connected to this idea of giving allowance. We give allowance to our kids. Allowance is not tied to any kind of specific chore. In part, I mean, we had lots of conversations about this, but for us, chores are just you're part of our family. These are things we need you to do for our household to function. With two
Yeah,
working parents and three kids, there's a lot
you're
going on
part of the
here.
family.
Yeah, that's right. But we also wanted them to learn about money and to have some, so they get an allowance, which feels expensive, honestly, still sometimes, but they get an allowance.
Yeah, yeah.
That also means we need to have cash all the time, and that's not always an easy thing, going to an
No,
ATM and having cash.
yeah.
And I feel like there are likely tools out there. So a friend of mine, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I feel like it's called Greenlight. It's like a debit card, but it's connected to an app. Is it called Greenlight? Am I remembering that correctly? So
Um,
well, here,
I'm
let me
not
say this.
familiar.
My,
There are a lot of different types like this
yeah.
that you're referring to. I know
Okay.
what you're talking about.
And so I guess my question here in this long lead up is just, are there specific tools or apps or websites that you recommend that can help with this kind of allocation of allowance, really, frankly, in this way, into these various buckets without necessarily needing to go to an ATM and
without the
deposit?
cash.
Yeah.
Yes, great question. Uh, Banks and credit unions don't like to give debit cards to kids until they're 16, 17, until they have a job. We knew our credit union manager. We were able to get our older kids debit cards when they were 12, but one of our kids immediately lost the first two within 3 months. And so like, yeah, proving the point why. Without recommending a specific program, there are a number of these, and the reason why I probably don't do each one is because they're hard to keep up with. But they're called FinTech programs, FinTech solutions. They'll come and go. Most of them come, some of them go, but look for ones that have as small fee as possible because they will make money. They're usually a monthly fee of a couple of bucks per card, maybe. Some of them might be $10 a family. Some of them, and then they might have a freemium version, and then $25 for some others. Some of them are really slick. They are, where you put money onto a card and they can spend it. You get notified as a parent. You get to see what they're spending money on. Or how they're spending. If they're taking money out in cash at an ATM, talk to them about, okay, do you know about these fees? They're called ATM fees. Anyway, but yeah, there are some great products out there. I will say spending with plastic, whether it's a debit card or credit card, is just easier. It's more convenient. Anytime things become more convenient, we spend more. That, again, survey or studies show human nature. Plastic is easier to spend, so we overspend at least 15% overall. And when you start talking about eating out, dining out, or you're talking about spending 50 to 100% more than you would have if you had taken in cash. So there is still something to be said for the inconvenience of taking out cash. But we do live in a digital world, and I do recognize that they do need to learn debit cards. So just use it, but sit down, make an appointment. So every week at the same time, on the same day, you're sitting down with them. They know, I'm going to have to account for my spending. If they don't have already, other things. Just be aware of where they're spending their money. Don't get on their case if it's frivolous stuff. But if it's, if they're always spending it only on games, and then they're still complaining about something else, just bring up, hey, you know what? I noticed you're spending a lot of money on games, all your money on games, which is fine if that's your priority. But I've heard you saying you'd like to do this too. Can we help you with that? Make a plan. How are you going to do that? Put some money aside for it or whatever.
I guess an alternative solution for us, because I think you're right, having cash is categorically different.
Yes.
And it could be that we move money behind the scenes. We tell them, we show them somehow, your allowance is X. We're putting some here, some here, some here. Digitally, we're just kind of doing that, showing them. And here is the resulting cash that you get. That could be a slight alternative.
Children are going to be very visual early on. If you're good with spreadsheets and charts, use them. Mm-hmm. Show them. I mean, there's lots of calculators you can use online. Hey, if you were to take $10 a month at this age, put it aside for 5 years, and not even do anything else again with it, and when you're my age, guess how much money that's going to be? And their eyes will be like, that's impossible. How does it grow to be 10 times, 20 times more than what you gave me? And you just talk about the magic. It's not magic money. It is you're investing in businesses that are growing, and they share some of that wealth back to you because you took a risk in investing in them.
Todd, thank you so much. If listeners wanted to find you, your website is an incredible wealth of resources. But if they wanted to find you out in the virtual world, where can they do that?
besides moneyfit.org, they can connect with me. I am on LinkedIn, Todd R. Christensen, and we also have MoneyFit by DRS is our handle on Facebook and X and on Instagram. Love to connect with anybody who has questions or ideas. Love share the wealth.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay. Thanks for hanging out with me on The Weekly Parent. If something you heard today made you think, laugh, or feel just a little more human, don't be shy. Subscribe, text it to your BFF, or group chat, or leave us a review. Remember, you'll find free tools, downloads, and whatever else I've cooked up this week in the show notes. Check those out. Parenting is messy. Let's not do it alone. See you next time.